shit! You can't fuck with me! You can't fuck with bro!
Hardware is a 1990 British science fiction horror film directed by Richard Stanley, starring Dylan McDermott, Stacey Travis, John Lynch, and Iggy Pop.
This is Angry Bob, the man with the industrial dick.
Welcome back to the Cult of Films. I'm your host, Angry John, and I don't have an industrial dick. Joining me tonight is my fellow partner that's ready to ride the Hershey Highway with me, Mr. Chris Ruppert from Bad Movie Night.
Thank you for having me, John. Thank you for having me back. I feel as though you forgot a very important name when you were reading the list of actors in Hardware. You forgot Lemmy, my friend.
Nothing else. Maybe a piece of wood or something, piece of pipe, you know what I mean? Nowadays, you need a gun all the time.
R.I.P. One love, Lemmy. Lemmy? I called him Levy, but whatever. Eugene Levy.
Lemmy is a god.
Lemmy is a god.
Lemmy is a god.
And you know, Dermot Mulrooney, Dylan McDermott, Dermot Mulrooney are the same person. They just one day spelled their name wrong and they became two people, even though they look exactly the same. And their names are almost interchangeable. It's really weird.
Right out the gate with the Dylan McDermott trivia, I thought you were going to stay with Lemmy. The fact that this was not Richard Stanley's first choice to play the role of the boat taxi man. It was actually Sinead O'Connor. They wanted Sinead O'Connor to be the Lemmy
nothing compares
role.
to Lemmy, John. Nothing. Is that why she got up on SNL and should have just tore the picture of Lemmy, but she didn't.
That's right.
She chose the Pope instead.
Fight the real enemy.
But this isn't a political show, so I will abstain from commenting.
This is your guy. Audience out there, and now we're going back to Richard Stanley. Audience out there, if anyone knows Christopher, he loves Richard Stanley because he made one of the greatest films of all time, right?
Dial-It to Dr. Moreau is what you're getting at?
Yeah.
All right, for one, okay, I do like Richard Stanley, and we can get into that conversation, but he is a very problematic individual. So I don't want to be associated directly with Richard Stanley and loving him in all ways, I guess is what I would say.
Yeah. We don't need any voodoo curses or anything coming our way because he has been known to dabble. But this was, I believe, his directorial debut.
He dabbles in a few curses here and there, but yeah, this was his directorial. I mean, definitely my wife does. I'm just saying.
Hence the glaucoma. Yeah. There have been a lot of directorial debuts, and I would say probably 78% of them has sucked way worse than Hardware did.
Oh my God. Yeah, this is, I mean, I will save my general thoughts, but yeah, this doesn't seem like a directorial debut, although it's hard to say though too, but it is a rememberable movie. Memorable, I believe is what the term is I'm looking for there, but I am a few drinks deep, so we're going to let it slide and act like I didn't say rememberable.
We can't give all the creative juices credit-wise to Richard Stanley because this was a stark ripoff of the comic book Shock, which was a short story featured in the 2000 AD comic book series, which was where
Judge Dredd, right?
Judge Dredd came from. A lot of things were, though. RoboCop is essentially a reskinning of Judge Dredd.
Wow.
So, well,
allegedly. Okay.
Allegedly with proof. Yeah, so I'm not going to say this was a completely unoriginal idea because there is some Richard Stanley stank on it, especially as far as the filmmaking went. So
yeah, it's an 8-page comic, and so it's an hour-and-a-half long feature film. And while the premise is essentially the same, and so, I believe the plot almost as well, it's just filled with weird art house surrealism and stuff.
Yes.
And that's the Richard Stanley stank that you're talking about there, right?
And watching this, I was just like, man, if I know my buddy Chris, this is just right up your alley, because
It is.
this is plot-wise, it's kind of boring.
I think the premise is really cool.
The premise is cool. The execution of the plot, as far as the story goes, is pretty bland. However, it is those weird surrealist moments and these like inserts of this weird, there's this art house movie, like you said, that's hidden inside this like thirsty, post-apocalyptic film, which makes it a little bit, I think, which was confounding to a lot of viewers when it came out, and maybe what held it back from more of a general audience. But what I think was the good point, as far as people like you and I go.
If this came out now, it'd be considered like more of the elevated horror.
I still prefer the Babadook.
While it has the genre
Yeah.
ideals and tropes and points, it's got those more, like you were talking about, like your surrealistic moments, your Mandy, Color Out of Space, which is another Richard Stanley movie. But you have these just like style over substance, like scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, I think, who are just looking for something straightforward and understandable and fun, at those moments kind of tune out. This is what I want, John, and so this is what I get when I watch Hardware.
And it's not only just like little insert shots, there's like whole characters that are just like outside, like the movie stops and then you get Porkins from Star Wars. And he just
Jack
takes,
Porkins?
just
Yeah,
fucking takes over the movie, and you're just like,
Wait. So you are hypothesizing that Jack Porkins is like a very dirty pervert?
Fucking bitch. God, I love you.
he's got some wibbly wobbly eyes. So.
Yeah. R.I.P. Jack Porkins. Dude, I used to play, well, I never played it, but the Star Wars collectible card game in high school.
Yeah.
Me and my friend, my friend is much smarter than me. He was like, if we buy these, we can resell them on eBay. This was like early internet times. So I was like, okay. So we bought a whole case. And I got the Jack Porkins card, and I kept it. And that's my story. So now I remember that face. It's burned into memory for all times. So it's fun to hear your hypothesization. I don't believe that's a word, but that's okay.
We are creating words today.
We are, we're that you think he's a very dirty man.
He is. He's a little sweaty. Yeah, Billy Hootkins, that's the actor that we're talking about. Always, I mean, besides Star Wars, I think he's always played kind of a gross character.
Is he actually the same actor?
Yeah, no, I swear to God. You thought I was making that shit up?
I just thought you were calling him that because you were a jerk.
No! No, it's really him. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
He's in that movie, which there's two themes with him. Like I said, most of the time he plays like a sweaty perv. And the
too. But in real life.
And the other truism about him is he always dies in everything in a fantastic fashion, Star Wars included. But in this one, I mean, the Mach 13 kind of rides his Hershey highway to completion.
Mark 13? Mark 13? Mach 13?
Mark 13. Mark 13.
What I appreciate about this movie, though, from like a filmmaking standpoint, is how small scale it is, but yet it feels like it reaches out way further than what it shows. Even though there's like, it's not all, a lot of movies can try and do that where they're just like telling you interesting things. There's enough real visuals being shown here that like hint at bigger things and more interesting things in this world. So I think it's like a really well done thing because they're able to just basically have this one set where 90% of the movie takes place, but with some creative choices, those other scenes build a much larger world around it. And so you get this isolated small scale movie, but it still has a far-reaching impact.
$1.5 million. $1.5 million this thing cost. That is fucking insanity.
And at least 60 to 70% of that went to Jack Porkins. I know who I am.
Yeah, two really beautiful matte paintings. And like you said, most of it is in this like one apartment, but they do go to different levels of the apartment. There's an outside scene. Just the set design in this was one of the characters in this. I mean, we've danced around a little bit. We could kind of dive more into it. What is Hardware about, Chris?
well, Hardware is about Dermot Mulrooney, whatever the guy's name is.
Porkins the Fifth, yeah.
Porkins Fifth, journeying from the wastelands, coming back into the city. He goes to the store, and there's another traveler there who drops off a robot, and he's going to go visit his girlfriend. He knows his girlfriend is an artist who, likes machines. She's an engineer. I don't know exactly what she does, but she tinkers. She's a tinkerer, John.
And the guy that found the parts initially is Carl Douglas, played by Carl Douglas McCoy, who just
is that the
looks
Dust Devil?
Such a cool character.
Is that the same actor from the Dust Devil? Do you know?
Well, he was the front man to the gothic rock band Fields of the Nephilim. So here's the thing: most of these cameos are some kind of rock legends.
He takes his robot back to his girlfriend's posh apartment, which is. It's big.
It's gross.
It's gross, but it does seem like she has money in this future wasteland.
Yeah,
in some ways,
right?
And it turns out the robot is a old war machine from some war that's hinted at, and is able to rebuild. Or is it because the end? Yeah, we'll unpack it.
Yeah,
and hijinks ensue with a killer robot.
Yes, you have this really mysterious, man in black in like the cowboy hat kind of deal, going through the wasteland, finding these items, bringing them to, what are they called, fences or something. He's just like a junk dealer or whatever.
Pawn shop
owner, and it's just like he's like, all this is trash. This is like, this entire world is trash. Like, how does he differentiate some of the metal from other metal?
That is why we need Pawn Stars 2044.
Said you got a Hobbit from Willow.
Well. Hard Mo Baxter.
I mean, that's the cool thing, though, because it's like, what is valuable in this future?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, you're right. So that traveler guy who comes in with the robot, though, he's just like this mysterious figure. You don't really see his face. You just see his eyes in a really cool sequence.
Mm-hmm. Did the whole like, I can't remember his name, but Father whatever from The Exorcist when he gets possessed. It's the same type of eyes, and you got the same kind of like zoom in. He takes it back to his girlfriend because, it's a nice thing to do to bring your girlfriend trash, and she's like, this is fucking ugly, but she loves it and decides to make this art piece. Little does she know, this is an advanced piece of AI. 20% of this movie is 90s music videos.
But it's cool.
Which is awesome. Yeah, because you think of like RoboCop and stuff, or like Starship Troopers, and you get those inserts, those very Verhoeven inserts of ads and shit like going on TV, and it's all very
sardonic, yeah.
Exactly.
I'd buy that for $1.
But this, it's just like, it's telling the story of the world through like ministry, like these crazy ass like violent music videos, which is awesome. You get a little bit of those little ads too. There's like that get your radioactive free reindeer meat commercial, and it's like these prancing reindeers. So it does have those little tidbits of Verhoeven goodness sprinkled in there.
It's not like obvious satire though, like RoboCop is.
Yeah,
it's more uncomfortable. Like, everything is gross.
It's bleak. It's really bleak.
Yeah.
There's no tongue-in-cheek. It's just you're getting fucked by, like, sand and, like, twisted metal. Like, that's the world that you're living in.
Twisted Metal 2 was pretty cool, though.
Yeah. Sweet Tooth is my favorite. It's a shitty place because it's almost like Handmaid's Tale a little bit, because, like, the government is trying to do, like, a population control. They don't want people to procreate. I guess that's the opposite of Handmaid's Tale then, but they don't want people to procreate anymore, because I don't think they never really give you a sense of what exactly happened. You just kind of piece it together. There's radioactive things, and so maybe this is like
that stuff is all cool and world building, but a lot of it actually feels more important than it ends up being. There's a bunch of scenes in this movie where it's like, oh yeah, this character's like doing drugs and like meditating. I'm like, what does all this mean? There's these scenes, people are talking about things, and I'm like, what is this? Are we building to some sort of symbolism? There's like, fascist elements and stuff like that. Like, and it ends up not meaning anything because it's just like distraction, like nothing. You know what I mean? It's like the most basic plot. Once you get like a robot tries to kill a person, and we go through these things, but it's distracting with these other elements. It's cool. But ultimately, I was like waiting for the cohesive message that never comes.
This movie feels like a piece to a larger story. It feels like it could lend well to like a series revival, maybe, to kind of, and this world and this kind of universe has been done to death a million times. But this specific one is just a little bit, it has that extra layer of bleakness to it that I really kind of spoke to me. So trying to get all that information in 90 minutes just didn't work because the director was working against his own story because he wanted to make sure that it looked cool. Like he wanted his art house shit in there. Yeah,
I mean, you can't make movies like that though for a mainstream audience. Like there are tons of post-apocalyptic megalopocalypse movies, like these big, cities and stuff like that. But they don't go as cynical or as dark because they're, usually like some sort of bigger production company or something attached to them to pull off those kind of visuals. And because this movie's small scale, they still went for it in an indie way. And so it was like Richard Stanley's, like, whatever, his style right out there. And because of that, it's like a little bit darker and more uncomfortable than you're used to getting. But that's the thing, was like, if this is his first movie, it's super impressive because his sense of style comes through 100%. And you either like it or you don't. And I do like it. But I could see a lot of people not.
Yeah, and I feel like in the middle, I like it, but I don't like it for the reason that I think that he wanted his audience to like it. I liked it because it was just different. Because especially you host a show called Bad Movie Night.
How dare you accuse me of doing such
what a shout out, right? You host this bad shitty show.
I don't want to be associated with that crap.
But I mean, you do a million of that. You've talked about a million of these types of films, but this specific one stands out because it had so many like inserts of different ideas and different things it was trying to say. However,
it's a little transgressive in that way. I mean, it shows, like, I think this movie is originally rated X, if I read that. And I didn't watch the director's cut to know what they put back in.
I didn't either.
Yeah, but there's like, I mean, they show you very explicit imagery at times, and whatever about it does make you uncomfortable. It's like a mixture of the set being like super dirty and gross, that the characters themselves not being particularly likable or morally good. They're all kind of like weird and uncomfortable people.
You gonna let me in or what?
I changed the code.
You changed the code? You believe this shit? I'll leak up the coach. Come on, Jill. It's Mo and Shades.
And then the bleakness to everything. The world is bleak. The characters, their relationship feels like not healthy, not good, a little bit shitty. And so like none of it is positive. There's no hope. It doesn't seem like there's no future. Every there's like desolation everywhere.
That's a good segue to talk about the characters themselves. Because like you said, there's really no one besides Jill, who's the main girl, the final girl, it's played by Stacey Travis. She's the only one with some kind of relatability and likability, because and you don't find that out until way late into the movie, because the movie sells itself like you're going to be attached to Mo, who's Dylan McDermott's character.
Dermot McSkillet,
Yeah, you can't fuck with Mo.
You can't fuck with Mo.
And he's just such an asshole. And his buddy Shades, aka not John Turturro, is just weird. He's just like on this weird masturbatory, drug infused awakening, like ayahuasca trip from hell during the whole thing. And then the neighbor Lincoln, who's just the worst, who was ad-libbing all of that shit to make the people on set uncomfortable. Would you be surprised if I said this is a Weinstein production? Because it is.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah,
that was some nasty shit. That's one of those question marks I have. Like, why is that in the movie? Is that just to sell like, oh, this is the culture we are living in, the world we are living in is just gross and exploitative, or like what is Richard Stanley trying to say by putting those like because for a plot wise, it's like I need to get another character to show up. Well, okay, he can have his neighbor, but he doesn't need to be like this dirty, weird sex pervert.
We look at all the pretty girls with wibbly wobbly eyes.
Right, like a caricature of a
like that is his character.
Yeah, and it's just like, okay, and this is gonna sound weird, but like if everyone was like that, if like, you know, women were just like meats on the market, you know, or whatever, then that would make more sense in relation to the world building. But like the neighbors are normal. It's just like this Asian family that's like having dinner, you know?
And that's okay. So that's one of the things. So like the entire movie until that point, you're like, everybody is gross. And so this is the world you live in. So like even when the neighbor shows up and he's a weird, dirty sex pervert, you feel like a little sense of reprieve for our main character.
Yeah.
It like slightly lowers the tension because she's no longer alone against this killer robot, and he's actually kind of helpful. So there's times where he's like, oh yeah, he's helpful, and I'm like, I kind of like him. And then I'll say like the grossest, weirdest, sick
He licks her face, yeah.
And he licks her face. And it's like, oh, is this the world now where like everybody's shitty, and so like even good looks shitty in some ways or whatever? But then at near the end with like the couple that lives below and how
the
she gets
security
hurt, and they're all
and,
like helping her and stuff. So clearly morally good there.
Right. And it's just like Moe's an asshole and his buddies are assholes, but they're like scavengers and scoundrels, so that kind of, I feel like he was going for like a Han Solo type deal, so I get that. But
I thought he was going for a Dermot Mulroney, who kind of whatever. I can't even say the guy's name.
It's just very disjointed. She's good though. Like it took me a couple times to watching this to really appreciate her character and her arc.
I think it's because they framed it nicely, because they start with Mo and you're like, okay, yeah, he's Han Solo, but then he shows up there and she's kind of cold to him, and you're like, okay, well, like, he's been gone. I can't deal with Mo. And it feels weird because she's not like receptive of him. They do like have shower sex, and we can talk about that because I have questions about that. Not the logistics and stuff. Like I understand when a man and a woman love each, like I get that.
Right.
But anyways, but it's cool because like, they frame that relationship weird. And then when you start to learn more how Mo is more shitty, you start to like her more. And so it's like switching of the audience's feelings for people. It's hard to probably do that effectively and not like over the top. Like, you know what I mean? Like they do it subtly enough. So you feel like you're just naturally shifting over to liking her more.
Do you think that he was going for like a girl power type role, like a tank girl type deal on purpose, or?
I get the more Ellen Ripley vibe at times. There's specifically a scene where like the lights are blinking red and there's like a horn, like warning sign going, and it gives me very much Alien vibes.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's more like homage there at that point or not, but I don't know if you're getting like a girl power thing by the end of this.
Talking about just like the way this thing looks again, like it is lit so well. Like I love the lighting in this apartment. It almost goes like Argento Giallo sometimes, and then you do like her looking through the fridge and stuff at her lactoplasm, whatever the fuck you have to milk to get lactoplasm.
What do you think lactoplasm is? Some sort of...
It sounds like male tit milk, but
you could milk a male. Can't you milk a male?
Maybe someone milks Lemmy.
Nothing else. Maybe a piece of wood or something, piece of pipe, you know what I mean?
Oh shit! You can milk a Lemmy. Yeah.
You can milk a Lemmy. You can't milk a human, but you can milk a god. What are we doing? Anyways, what they got to do and how they use every little square inch of that apartment set. Mm-hmm. And that is so cool because you are tucked in crawl spaces. The POV from the Mark 13 is very like Sega Saturn looking. Like it looks like shit.
very much more Sega CD.
Yeah, exactly. it's not, you know, it's not the best, but it's good enough for the time.
It's cool. It sells the effect. You know what's happening there.
Sure. Actual set itself is such a character. The door that like clamps up and down becomes a part of it.
What sells that stuff so much is like, okay, yeah, the door, it's cool. But then, like, when it's moving, it'll cut to like this interior shot of the workings of the door and the gears moving. Yeah, and it's like, oh, that's so much like works. And there's so many moments like that where they add that effort in, just these little cutaway shots that took probably hours to do, but they add so much over time. Do you think the lighting and the just general visual style, a lot of it is coming from the comic book? Or do you think that's more Richard Stanley?
I think it's more Richard Stanley because the comic book is very much on the page. Like, you get to really see the Mark 13 or whatever it's called in Shock on the page, where this is shot in a way where you see the best parts of what you need to see for the scene, right? Like, again, $1.5 million and you get this great of a creature. What you don't see is just as terrifying as what you do see. And even when you do see quite a bit of it, like in the shower scene and whatnot,
it looks good.
Looks good, man. Like, let's talk about the Mark 13 a little bit. What do you think about it? Like, where do you feel like it ranks in the cult creature kind of pantheon?
It's hard to say because you never really get, like, you sort of get a reveal, but it never really feels like I understand the exact size and like shape and how this thing works, which is fine because they're, like you said, they smartly use it. That's not even, is it smartly a word? I don't know.
Yeah, we're gonna go with that. That's most like a word that we've said tonight.
That's fair. 100% fair. They use it really well though, because they do hide it a lot of times. So they're letting my mind fill in how it works, I guess. And if I would have thought about it originally, it's more like a Terminator, but now I'm seeing it kind of like a Johnny Five.
Yeah.
Face. Yeah. You know what I mean? But with a very terrifying looking face. That's what they do really well. And they show it with the paint, with like the
American flag
on it and shit. Yeah, with the eyes and stuff. It's really cool. It's intimidating.
'Cause the only time you get to see it, the whole entire body looks like, is on that little, like Texas Instruments computer image and it's like doing like the YMCA thing. You're like, that looks terrible. But like when it's really going, it's so terrifying because you don't know what's coming from where. Like when Porkins goes, he's just like, I gotta open up your blinds, and he's all nasty. You just see like shit coming out of nowhere. And so you can never get a sense of what you're trying to defend against.
I think that's, I guess, from a storytelling standpoint, it's supposed to be because it's repairing itself. And so you don't
constantly changing.
It's constantly changing and stuff. Because at times I was like, oh, is it just like the upper half and it's kind of crawling along? And I don't know why it was outside when Jack Porkins gets killed. But it was cool because it like really fucks him up.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the extra layer that they added to like what this thing could do, where it poisons you. Like its hand is still at like the pawn shop trying to get back to itself. It does like the whole like thing from Addams Family deal, but it kills you by basically poisoning you. But the toxin itself is euphoric, so you're super.
Nice.
You're not like, in any other, in a lesser movie or another movie, everyone would be melting from the inside out. It'd be this whole deal. And it would be like, at least $1 million worth of like melts makeup and shit. This is just like, no, you go out with a smile on your face, and that's like extra creepy to me. I don't know. It was really effective.
It is creepy. It's cool world building again. I kind of want that. Like, that would be cool to have. Like, when I'm ready to hit the sack, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what they're calling it nowadays. It's fucking millennials up in here naming death, all different kinds of things. But I digress. So let's talk about the Mark 13.
Yes.
Because at the opening of the movie, they're showing us Dermot McSkillet walking around the post-apocalyptic desert, right?
It's never not going to be funny. Yeah.
And he's finding like shit, and you're like, okay, I understand.
Mm-hmm.
Even though Dylan McDermott is not the guy who has the robot initially.
Right,
It's this
right.
other scavenger guy who shows up with it in a sack. And you're like, okay, he's just another scavenger of the desert wastelands. It appears there was a World War III possibly or something.
Yeah.
And this is just leftover remnants of that. And so he gets the robot. And you're like, okay, for the whole movie, I'm like, okay, it's just something from the past. But the very end of the movie, they say about 800 jobs are being made because the Mark 13 is going to be starting to be mass produced.
Right.
So, does that mean this was like some sort of government, whatever corporation, whoever owns the Mark 13, like test run?
100%.
Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's what you think? Okay.
And this is how I interpreted it, because she's talking about that new regulation of a ban or a levy on procreating. So
Yeah.
I think that they send these out if you accidentally knock up your girlfriend. They knock on your door.
Oh, and is that why we saw that sex scene with Dylan McSkermott? Okay.
Yes. That's how
That
I
makes
took
sense.
it. Yeah.
That's actually, I never thought about that, but that is a prominent like thing they mentioned several times is the procreation ban.
Yeah, I think it's definitely government ran. It's like this particular model probably did something terrible, because of course it did. So they somehow decommissioned it, try to bury it out in the desert. It got, whatever. And then, they're like, oh, we've learned our lesson, and this was what was wrong. We're going to make, maybe that was the Mark 12 or, the Mark 14 is going to be the one that's mass produced. And little did they know, it's just going to be the same shit. They're basically, spelling their own demise and all that. So I thought that was super interesting. That's what makes me be like, oh, if this was ever like dug up, pun intended, to kind of do more of these, it would be interesting to see where they would go with this.
Yes. I got two things.
Yeah.
One, have you instituted a procreation ban in your household?
Obviously not, because I have half of the population of the United States in my house.
And you are currently birthing at this moment.
Yeah, hold on. That's number 20. Oh, it was just a fart. Never mind.
Two, okay. This is the thing that doesn't make any sense, though. This is like an elite computer, hardware, creature, monster, killer, robot thing.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
The AI on it, yeah.
AI on it, super smart, it can repair itself.
Sure.
It seems like it can't be killed. It's got those things it can inject people with and all these other tools it can use to kill you with.
Mm-hmm.
But fucking rain.
Yeah.
rain will do it. It's
Rain
like
will do it.
Signs. It's like signs. Like, oh, they forgot about water. Everything but water.
It was a shower and a baseball bat that wound up taking it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make any sense because earlier in the movie, Dermot McDermott, whatever his name is, Dylan McDermott, is in the shower. He has a robotic arm. And I'm not talking like a modern day as we know it prosthetic. This is like a cyborg. Well, maybe they have something similar nowadays too.
It's like Jax from Mortal Kombat type deal. Yeah.
I don't know what, like, if you have a very high-tech prosthetic nowadays, if that stuff is something you take off in the shower or not, I don't know.
And even if it's not, like, if they have the technology to
the show, like, he's in the shower, he's doing his girl, he's like doing weird sex stuff with his robotic hand, and I was like, that's kind of interesting, Dylan. But so they already show, like, okay, yeah, you can this, and then the robot gets in the shower, it's like, oh fuck, I'm the most killer robot. Oh fuck my life. Yeah, and I'm like, okay.
That was the glitch. That was the Mark 13 glitch that they tried to bury because they were so embarrassed because they're like, we got this perfect killing machine, and then someone spilled water on it and it went down. So maybe the new ones doing the actual government population control are at least water resistant. I mean, because it does kind of set up, and I know this is stupid, but it does set up that this universe is very dry, right? Like it is thirsty as
That's thirsty shit they got going on there.
Yeah, Porkins is super thirsty.
Oh yeah.
So, maybe they took that for granted. They're like, water and shit, because there is no water. However, if water is such a problem like it would be in like Furiosa,
Yeah.
then why does she have a shower? How does she have centralized plumbing?
Well, they definitely set her up as though she has money. Because when Dylan arrives, he enters the building and he's talking to the Shades guy and he's like, whoa, what happened here? Because there's all these riffraff street trash, whatever. I don't know, Lion King or not, that. Whatever it is. What's it? Aladdin, not Lion King. Jesus Christ. But that they're all like living there, and he's like, oh yeah, somebody broke the gate. So like this was like a gated community. She has this massive like bunker door. She has a
security
massive
guard. Yeah.
She has a security guard. It looks like she has a massive apartment based on like how this robot is getting lost in it and stuff.
Right.
Or it's just creatively shooting it. But either way, like it seems pretty big.
Yeah. She has lactoplasm at
She's
the
got
ready.
so much fucking lactoplasm. And I didn't even want to bring it up, but she's got lactoplasm for days, okay?
It's hard to melt. It's hard to harvest from Lemmy.
You gotta suck down that lactoplasm. And like all she does is do stupid artwork. Like it's not even it's just dumb. Like it's like I don't even she's like, I took the robot and I made an American flag on it.
But even
what does that mean?
Even Shades, the fuck up friend that's like furiously masturbating next door has a nice apartment.
Just a Saturday night for
Shades.
Shades.
That's true. And to I'm not king shaming, but I'm saying he's got probably as much money as she does, and he's in the same profession as Hard Mo, because his apartment's actually huge and nice. Hers is just full of shit.
Lemmy has a taxi boat.
Lemmy has a taxi boat that shoots foam out.
Shoot a lot of foam.
All that lactoplasm. He has too much to go around.
And all he does is listen to his own band play Ace of Spades, which is kind of sad, but it is like the most mainstream Motorhead song I know. So
I mean, it's just like Iggy Pop going, being the disc jockey going into a Iggy Pop song too. I was like, oh no.
The best song is "This Is What You Want, This Is What You Get." This is what you want, and that's the only part of the song they play, but it is pretty cool. And that fucking keyboard thing that comes after it, that's so good.
Great score. I actually like the score.
Great score. It's fantastic.
Very hard to find. Very expensive too.
Well, not even just like not the license, like that stuff I'm talking about. Like there's just great synth choices matched with those like psychedelic, surreal moments where you're just like, oh man, this is so cool. It's dripping with so much style. Mm-hmm. But she has the grossest fucking shower I've ever seen in my life.
No one's getting clean in there.
Like, like, I feel like if I'm going in there and getting naked, like, I'm coming out dirtier than I was before.
Yeah. Oh, my God. I was just looking at, what's his name? Simon Boswell. He's the one that did the score. Guess what other score he did? Another movie that you and I loved, at least, that we talked about on this very show.
Dude.
1985's Phenomena. Dario Argento. He did that. Then that had a fucking batshit score too.
It did. That was, and they had like Iron Maiden in it and shit too. Yeah. It was real weird, yeah.
Yeah, Goblin mixed with Iron Maiden mixed with just weird synthy bullshit. So I'm a Simon Boswell fan. I didn't even know it.
Oh, we're all here for Boswell. I'm a Boswell.
We're all
I
here.
I got a tattooed on there. Anyways, I have a question.
Yes.
So how do you separate the art from the artist? Because this is one of those movies now where you have to be able to do that.
Are you talking about from a Weinstein situation, or are you talking about Richard Stanley?
So Richard Stanley, you can read the posts from his ex.
Yeah.
And they're like extremely, explicit and terrible. And if any of it's true, then that means Richard Stanley himself is an absolutely horrific person.
He's a monster, yeah.
And unfortunately, monsters also can create great art.
Sure.
And sometimes maybe it's necessary. I don't know. The suffering, the depression obviously leads to creativity a lot of times for some reason.
Yeah.
Or it seems like it does based on the individuals who create stuff. So is that something you're able to do? I assume it is based on the fact that you like this movie.
Well, here's the thing, and I'm not giving anybody a pass or anything like that. But he was like 24 years old making this film.
Wow.
Now, if this was like starring Kevin Spacey, we probably wouldn't be talking about it. But I am able to, in a way, look at this as just a movie. because it is so strange and bizarre and so specific, especially in this very strange and bizarre and specific kind of filmmaker's early headspace.
Yeah, I mean, it is unfortunate, like, because he's a very talented filmmaker. Like, I like all of his movies.
Yeah.
He has a very specific sense of style, which is like what it takes to stand out as a filmmaker. Because there's a million filmmakers who can make something competently, but there's very few or much less filmmakers who make something and you're like, I recognize that as this person. And it's whether there's just they have a strong sense of style that comes through. They have their voice that comes through. And he has one. And yeah, like I am too. I'm able to separate it. Like it's just the nature of the world we live in, and it's kind of shitty though. Like I have a Pixel 5 Google phone. Like I know at some point there was probably slave labor or something attached to it, something horrific.
Right.
But we just like move on with our day because we're so busy with other shit. But I do wonder if it would be better if we find out that like somebody was super shitty if we just say, okay, well, this person's done, we remove it. I don't know. It's probably not, because like he didn't make this movie alone.
Yeah, and everyone's closet is so full.
Yeah.
It always seems to come out eventually anyways. Like everybody.
Not like this, but everybody has done and said stupid shit in the past.
Yep.
You have your extreme examples. I mean, you have your Polanski, who literally is like, a pedophile.
I guess there's degrees.
There's a lot. Yeah, but like his movies are great.
And then sometimes, and in more rare cases, you have like James Gunn things where it's just like people trying to get rid of him over tweets, and then they're like, "Oh wait,
that's much less."
The first Suicide Squad
clear cut to me
sucks, so we got to get him to make save our DCEU or whatever. So it's all gross, and not just from the gross people; it's gross from the movie industry as well.
Yeah. It's I mean, it's shitty because I like his movies, and to find out he's a horrible person, and he's not gonna make any more movies probably.
Yeah.
Too. Like it's all. That's just me being like kind of a dick thinking in that way. I guess it's more. I don't know.
Damn you for giving a shit.
I know it is weird, and I think it's just like a personal thing. I guess at the end of the day, is you have to decide if you're okay with it and can handle it. There are people though, like Kevin Spacey now. It's harder because he's in front of the camera. And every time I see him, I'm like, oh my God, yeah, he's kind of a monster in some ways. You know what I mean? Those people. And I guess because he's behind the camera and he's never actually shown, it's easier to forget. Mm-hmm. So I didn't mean to derail the show and make it all sad and depressing.
No, not at all. I mean,
John, this is what the people want, and this is what the people get.
What they're getting. Did we mention that there's lactoplasm in this movie?
Dude, so much lactoplasm.
So much lactoplasm. Hardware, how would you recommend this movie to people that have never heard of it in our year 2022?
If you like cyberpunk, there's not that many cyberpunk kind of worlds. I guess you had like Johnny Mnemonic and stuff, but like they don't sell that aesthetic nearly as well as this movie does for me. Mm-hmm. I don't know. This is one of those movies, if you're like okay with some more art house surreal stuff, for about 50% of it. Because reading and that is the thing, like reading the plot synopsis, I think you get a lot more, or the premise at least, get a lot more people on board. Be like, oh, a war robot reconstructs itself and tries to kill someone in a futuristic world. Oh, that sounds fucking cool.
Right.
But then you watch it and you're like, oh wait, I should be on mushrooms when I watch this maybe. So it's going to disappoint a lot of people. So if you like that kind of stuff or not.
Yeah, it literally has like a 2001 Space Odyssey scene in it.
Yeah.
System, Jill.
No, light, man. Oh, spot, light, fire, no, head, hold head, together.
That seems a lot more at home in like a Stanley Kubrick film
than
it does in an early James Cameron film. So that's what makes it so tough for me to try to recommend it, because like you said, it's a movie for two different factions. It's a movie for the art kids, but it's also a movie for people that like popcorn action movies, especially of the era. So, and those two don't really gel. It's when you find people like you and I and a handful of other people, that's when you're like, wow, this is really our shit. Yeah,
it's hard to be aware. of how many people to recommend this to. Damn, I failed that.
You said poop.
I said poop, but you knew what I was getting at
Yeah.
there. I used the name of the movie. It was pretty clever.
We got it. Yeah, so I would recommend it, I guess, is my long-winded way of saying I'd recommend it to probably people more of the Total Recall, Running Man ilk than the standardized schlock from that era. Like, if you like Verhoeven, this will probably be your shit. It's not as good as that, maybe?
I feel like the Verhoeven stuff, though, like the comedy, the satire is so much more obvious. And so, like, the audience is like, oh, yeah, it's a little schlocky here.
Mm.
But this is, like, trippy, which I feel like turns off people more.
It's brutal and trippy and uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's like a date with Jon Dunning. I'm just kidding. Not the brutal part. He's brutally honest. That's what he is.
There we go.
Saved it. Saved it.
Saved it. Oh, boy. Yeah. So that is our thoughts on a movie that came out like when we were 2 or something.
Yeah, what year was this?
1990. So I was 7.
Damn, you're so fucking old, John. I was a young lass, just hitting the stride of 5 years old.
You're almost 7 and a half.
Nice to me. I could do anything. I could be anything, John.
Right. Yes.
Turns out I wanted to make terrible YouTube videos.
Aw. Our generation's so stupid. Anyways.
I know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, when you're not trying to reassemble yourself, where can everyone find you?
I mean, I'm over at Bad Movie Night. We have a podcast there. It's every week. Been going pretty strong, almost to 300 episodes. Jon Dunning's on many of the episodes. Well, not many, but the most of any of the guests we've ever had. So there's that. And also, I'm over at Grave Reviews now, which is my new channel I started, I don't know, a month or 2 ago, where it's just solo reviews by me.
That one's a lot of fun. I'm having a blast with that one.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
That means...
Not so much with the podcast. I'm not joking.
Nah, podcast. Nah. I love the podcast.
No,
it's super fun.
Good stuff. You could follow me on Twitter at The Cult of Films. You could also follow me personally at John the Host. You could listen to this in podcast form on iTunes. Leave us little bits and pieces, cogs and you know, knobs and stuff so I could reassemble my own Chris Ruppert over here on the West Coast so I could milk him.
Doesn't that feel good?
For
Wait, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, interrupted your joke there. Yes.
No, it was perfect though. You said, doesn't it feel good? I don't know. Does it?
Doesn't it feel good when you get one of those comments or reviews and it's like, I really like this show. Yeah. Doesn't that feel good?
Yeah, I do. They're mostly from you, but I mean, it's fine.
Yeah, it's true.